Sorry, we have to start over because we did have a phone call. Okay, so who has Hitler made the non-aggression pact with? Okay, so now the war has broken out. He's not going to fight over here. He has one front, right? And he knows that because of the invasion of Poland, the United Kingdom and France and Northern Ireland have created the Allies. And so they've created the Allies, and now everybody is coming together. Does the U.S. need to help at this time? Does it want to help? No, it has the Neutrality Acts out. Hitler, I know this is weird, he invades Denmark and Norway. There's a reason why, there's a resource. Remember, he's trying to create an atomic bomb, which you've read in Burdens of Power. One of the things that they need in building the atomic bomb, which is going to sound really weird, is something called soft water. Okay? It is something that they use and stuff, like engineers to do stuff. I don't know what soft water is. I know that I want soft water in my bathtub, so we have a thing that makes our water soft versus hard water. And so they're going in there to invade to get that resource. Y'all know that y'all could have, there's like a purifier for your water that comes in your bathtub that can make your water hard or soft, and it lets, like, it alkalizes. No, too much information about water and showers. Huh?
Does it change the feeling of the water?
It does.
So like in your bath, it's like soft.
Yeah, because there's all these minerals, because there's minerals in your water. And so there's minerals in your water, and so y'all know, have y'all ever looked at, like, when y'all, this is too much information, person on the other side. Have you ever noticed when you flush your toilet that there's that ring sometimes that it's like reddish stuff that comes out? Well, because there's minerals in your water that's causing that alkalization of it. That's hard water. And if you get pure water, which is soft water, it takes away all of that alkalines in your water. Have y'all learned this in bio? Like, no?
We learned it in aquatic science.
Aquatic science, there you go. So,
So is water in a water bottle soft water?
yes, because it's been purified. It's gone through a process.
So normal bath water is
Normal bath water has a lot of alkaline in it.
Is that bad for us?
Also, it's
No, it isn't. It just depending how much it is. And that's why, like, your, you know, they put fluoride in the water that you drink, right? So that makes it a little bit harder and heavier over water. So that's why people want to get, like, smart water that's been purified, or Fuji water, or whatever it is that's been purified. Or, like, there's mineral water. So there's stuff in your water. So he's invading this area for a resource. Now we've gotten hyper obsessed about water and not realizing that there's hard and soft water. Okay? Do y'all know, there's a water treatment plant here? And so as the stuff goes into the sewer, they treat that so they could get all of the debris out so the water that we drink is clean. That's also a process of water. If you're, like, really interested in water, there's a whole degree on it at Texas A&M. Okay.
A degree of water.
Yes, like that's what Miss Scott's husband does. He works at the treatment plant and he deals with water and, like, the purifying of it. And okay, we've just gone too much. Y'all know why he's invading here, right?
I'm going to do my doctorate in water.
Doctorate in water. There's a doctorate in concrete too. One of my college roommates, she has a doctorate in concrete. She's an engineer. And she has, like, because the way you build concrete, y'all have heard about all the stadiums, like Allen Stadium, that, like, they have, like, cracks in the stadium because there was too much water in the concrete, which caused it to crack. And so there's, like, all these degrees that y'all think are facetious. I'm not making them up, but they're real degrees that you specialize in, because the way water is affects how you build stuff. The way concrete is affects that. So now you're going to go, I'm going to be a Dr. Water.
Water doctor.
Okay, sorry, whoever is gonna watch this. So France freaks out. They're like, we're gonna be attacked. So they're gonna create a fortification. What is wrong with this fortification?
They just go through Belgium.
They're just gonna go through Belgium. Why? Okay, he's already told us what they're gonna do, but why do they go through Belgium looking at this map? Look at the fortification. Look, there's a key.
Because it's weak.
It's weak.
Isn't that like called like the Maginot Line or something?
Yeah, it's right there. He knew it without even looking at it. And so, just like World War I, Belgium gets obliterated. They come in, and the French were like, how did we get attacked? Well, because you have this weak fortification. And France will fall quickly to the German and Italian forces that come in. Y'all learned about this map. I know, you're like, wow, that's a lot of soldiers. They got rid of the Depression really quickly because they militarized. They're coming in, the soldiers, and it seemed disrespectful to march in front of this, and they march in front of it, and the French people are sad because they're completely taken over at this time. A new government comes in, and they allow control of Hitler in this area. And the reason why Hitler wants to obtain France, okay, is he wants to be able to have a staging ground for the German Luftwaffe, the Royal Air Force, to be able to attack the United Kingdom. So that's why he needs to obtain France, so he could put all of his little planes over here to start an attack on Great Britain. Okay, y'all are alarmed now, right? No one is ever going to invade Switzerland because of the Alps.
Is this why they start? Is this when they start bombing England?
Britain, that's the next thing I'm going to get. Yes.
Didn't they also want to take Alsace-Lorraine?
Yes, they do. Okay, and that's resources too. And no one ever invades Sweden. They're nice, and they give chocolates. I'm making that up, so I'm sorry. Okay, so this is what we're going to. Now they have France. They have this other area that's very rich in natural resources, and this is what leads to, do y'all see how they have all of these little areas of that's where their planes are? And this is when they start the attack on Britain. They're attacking industrial centers. In industrial centers, is it civilians there or is it just military there? Civilians. So our death toll in World War II is going to be really high. And so what happens at this time, they're attacking these industrial centers, but the British have a new weapon, the radar, which y'all probably hate when you're driving, right, when the cops have it. But for them, it's actually a benefit because they're able to detect when the Germans are coming. And this is going to be one of the biggest battles at this time, that the U.S. realizes if Britain falls, what's going to happen to us? We're next. So what's going to happen to this whole neutrality policy? Goodbye, and we're going to start to do what policy? Cash and carry. And then when it gets really bad, what are we going to go to? Lend-lease. That we're sending them the weapons because we realize that if they're fighting the Germans and keeping them over there, does the war come to the United States? No. And so those policies come around to keep the war in the Eastern Hemisphere. To give you perspective, at the same time that's happening, Pearl Harbor's happening. And I'm focusing these on theaters. In APUS and in the EOC, they want you to more know about economic, political, and social ramifications versus the movement of troops. So I'm sorry for you who are military buffs. I'm going to upset you because we're just going to talk about the ramifications of war. Okay, so now there's a lot more battles going on, but we're going to focus on this battle, Stalingrad, which y'all talked about last year in world history. Y'all remember that? Yes. Okay, so this battle is really important. Hitler wants to obtain Stalingrad because Stalingrad is actually the gateway into all of these countries that end in Stan. Have you ever seen them on the map? They're all Stan, Kexstan, Ministan. And those countries have oil resources. But he has to get through Stalingrad to be able to get to those resources. And y'all focused on this a lot in world history last year because was it just the military fighting here?
No.
No, the civilians rose up to fight. And so at this time, the U.S. has entered the war. And this is going to lead to a conference. But do you think Stalin wants to leave Russia knowing that this is going on there? No. So I want you to go to your wartime conferences. They have a conference. Who is missing? Stalin, because he's too busy where?
In Russia.
Russia. He's stalling around, right? And who is this guy right here?
Churchill.
Who's this guy right here? Roosevelt. They've already met at the Atlantic Charter. Now they're meeting again at Casablanca. Casablanca is in North Africa. And they're talking about if the war were to happen, where should the second front be open? Why do they want a second front? Why would they want a second front? Let's go back to this. Why would Russia want a second front? To attack from the other side, because right now they're facing the full force of the German army. Do they like that?
No.
So Stalin wants a second front that actually starts here in France. Because with this move German military over here. Yes.
Is this when the plan for Normandy comes in?
They're coming up with the idea, but do we have everything in line for the D-Day invasion? And so he wants this one. But the Allies, Churchill and Roosevelt, do they have everything to do this one? So they decide at Casablanca that they're going to do one from North Africa. Who are they going to be facing in North Africa? Are they facing many Germans? And they invade Sicily and Italy. Are they facing any Germans? So who is this going to get upset? Stalin, because where did he want his second front?
France.
Because this would deter Germans, right? Over here, and it would lessen the brunt of the war on Russia. And if you look at Casablanca, they decide at Casablanca that they are going to invade Sicily, right? Go to Italy, and then eventually the Benito Mussolini will be removed from power and Italy will end the war. And so I want you to think of this. Stalingrad is the worst day in, it's not a day, but it's the worst battle in the war because the Soviet Union loses the most amount of civilians and soldiers. Is Stalin going to be upset with Churchill and Roosevelt?
Yes.
Are they going to be chummy or are they going to have suspicions?
Suspicious.
And their tensions are going to rise at this time because did the invasion of North Africa take away German troops from the Soviet Union?
No.
And this is what's going to commence the Cold War, the tensions between these people in fighting World War II. And so now let's look at the next conference. Who shows up? Everyone's here. Stalin is finally here. Why does Stalin make sure that he shows up, even though the war is so bad in the Soviet Union?
So he gets.
What did he want?
He wanted
Second
Normandy.
front.
He wanted Normandy. Well, not Normandy, but an opening in France. We know it's Normandy, right? And so he is here. He's not looking very happy, right? Because, again, we've had the worst amount of casualties because of Stalingrad. And at the Tehran, you have to know where Tehran is located. It is located in the Soviet Union. So did Churchill and Roosevelt realize that that second front did not help the Soviet Union? Yes. Also, there's a German blockade. That's why they couldn't get in, and that's why they did Casablanca the first time. They couldn't get in because there was a blockade. So now they're here. They're going to get a second front. And this is going to lead to Normandy. But Normandy had actually already been practiced in North Africa. Many people think of Normandy as the first air, sea, and land invasion happening there. It is the biggest. But actually a lot of U.S. military officials said, we need to practice this. We've never done this before. And so the amphibious assault that happened from Sicily to Italy was the precursor to D-Day, which many of you who've probably seen the opening seasons of Saving Private Ryan, this is where it is. But they practice it in Operation Barbarossa, I think, from North Africa to Italy. Barbarossa. There you go. Sorry, I didn't sleep last night. My kid, 2:30 to like 5 o'clock, decided that he was going to be up. Okay, so there you go. This is just the invasion. It's the Allies, but who's the guy leading it? A lot of y'all said the Allies on your study guide. The way I remember it, the guy leading it, his name is Dwight David Eisenhower. So D-Day, it's from his initials, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Okay. Eventually, it's not like a day this battle happens, but over time they're able to get control of the Atlantic Wall, which will allow them to bring in supplies, which will allow them to push in forces, which will allow them to get to pushing back the Germans off this area. I know I'm skipping a lot of battles because AP says there's only a couple you need to know, and the state of Texas says there's a couple you need to know. You need to know more about the social, political, and economic ramifications. This is the last battle that you have to know in Europe. It's called the Battle of the Bulge because do you see what the German lines are doing? They're bulging out. Huh? Okay, and so this is the last German offensive. So what do you think is happening to the front lines of the Allies? What's happening to our soldiers?
They're dwindling.
They're dwindling. Okay, who do we say was the soldiers on the front lines? White. And who were the people in the back? And it's at this time that many of the commanders come into their minorities that are in the back, that are the cooks, that are the people who are picking up the dead people, the people moving their resources, and say, please step up and hold these mortars and shoot stuff. And do you think because of their act of valor, do you think they're going to get the highest recognition when it comes to medals?
Yes.
No. They'll get medals, but will they get the highest?
No.
They'll get bronze clusters. And so this leads to, could they have gotten more? And this is eventually going to lead to organizations like for the Mexican Americans called the GI Forum. And this is going to lead to organizations for the Mexicans called LULAC to go and galvanize their forces. But the Battle of Bulge, the reason why you have to know it, besides the German lines bulging out, it is the efforts of those minorities that is going to cause Germany no longer to be on the offensive, but to turn on the defensive. Okay? Because they're going to push. Eventually, we're going to have other troops come in, and we're going to be able to push their lines back. We're not going to get into all the details. I'm sorry for all you military buffs. Now this leads to this last conference. This is the last time that someone's going to be here. Who's the last time that someone?
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. And also, because what's going to happen to Roosevelt?
He's gonna die.
Okay, there's another person that this is their last time here. Churchill. He doesn't get reelected. Attlee will come in. So the only one who's going to be stalling around is, okay, okay, whatever. Okay, so we got to look at Yalta. Yalta is our last conference, and I want to look at this conference because the terms here really set up the Cold War. The first term here is that they're going to divide Germany into 4 occupation zones. And what y'all learned in world history last year, does Germany ever unite? No, it's East Germany and
West Germany.
And us dividing up Germany at this time actually sets up what is going to lead to the Berlin blockade and problems with the Soviet Union that is going to commence our Cold War. Okay? The next thing here is that there would be free elections in the East. Do you think free elections are ever going to occur? No. We're going to see puppet communist governments set up by the Soviet Union to act as a buffer to prevent future invasion. We're going to see the Soviets. They agreed to enter the war in the Pacific realm on August 8th. And y'all remember on your study guide, I made you do all these dates, right? And August 6th is when we dropped a bomb. August 8th, they come in. And then I think on August, I haven't slept, 9th or 10th, we drop another bomb.
It's the 10th.
The 10th, okay? Why do you think we drop a bomb so close to the Soviet Union's coming in? Okay, it's to send a message, because y'all read Burdens of Power, okay? We're going to see, and y'all also seen it in the book. Also, we're going to create the UN. What is the UN going to replace?
League of Nations.
The League of Nations, was it successful in doing its job? No. And so the UN is going to be a little bit different than the League because the UN will actually have a military. Right? So great. We've figured out the terms of the war, and this is what's going to lead to our Cold War. Eventually, we'll have a couple of battles, which you don't need to know, and Victory Day in Europe will happen. And y'all know from the first thing on the study guide, we had this ABC plan, right? Get Germany first. Because what has happened in the Pacific with our fleet? Was it all obliterated?
Most of it was.
A good portion of it was, right? So can we really wage war effectively against Japan? And so they had to come back and make new ships, right? And for those of you who were here on the home front, y'all realize those women were making those ships very fast. That watched the movie, that weren't taking that SAT day school. So what we're going to look at is the Pacific realm. Remember, we had treaties. the 4-power treaty saying that no one would take over people's territory in the Pacific. We also had the 9-power that people would respect China. Do y'all remember the country that invaded China and took over land? Japan. We are eventually going to see that the U.S. is going to give up ownership of the Philippines and send it on its free way. Japan's going to take it over. Everything within here, Japan takes over. Has it violated things from the Washington Naval Conference? Yes. Did anybody ever come in and tell Japan, stop doing what you're doing? No. Is that a form of appeasement?
Yes.
Okay, and so we're going to see appeasement kind of leads to the growing of this war. And so the U.S. is going to look at what is going on here, and they're going to realize waging war against the Japanese is going to be very difficult. And a lot of it commences from the Japanese, just their character. So on the top of your Pacific notes, there is some things about the Japanese character. We're going to see, y'all probably learned this last year in world history in the Meiji time period, that it was honorable to die for their emperor. Okay? That their emperor was considered a god. And that it was dishonorable to surrender. If you surrendered, you were seen as weak. If you gave your life for your emperor, you would automatically go to heaven. And y'all probably remember talking about the samurai last year. Yes? No?
Somewhat?
Senpuriku. Okay, so you probably remember that if you were going to surrender, it would be better for you to commit suicide than to surrender. Okay? So we're going to see that the U.S. is going to size up this side of the war, saying this is going to be difficult. Even though our technology is way better than their technology. This war is going to be difficult because of their characteristics of soldiers. And so what is going to occur is we know this war is not coming out of nowhere. They attacked China, but what did we refuse to call the attack on China? What? A war, a battle. We call it an incident, right? And then we're going to see that they're going to join the Axis. And then the U.S. starts to put an embargo on all of the tools for them to make war. And we're going to freeze their assets. And this is what's going to lead to them having a feud with the United States. And we break their code. We know they're going to attack somewhere. We don't know where. We have several naval bases here. So FDR does not leave all of the fleet in Pearl Harbor. He puts some out so that at least some of them are saved. But can we immediately go and attack Japan at this time? No. And so this is going to lead to the U.S. looking at what is our nearest island that we could at least start a carrier base. So what is our nearest island that the U.S. at least still controls at this time period next to Japan? You remember the Philippines? Remember Emilio Aguinaldo saying that they wanted freedom for the Philippine Islands? Did we give them freedom? No. Remember y'all read those documents when I was gone? Yes? No? Okay. So Douglas MacArthur is going to go here. But this has been taken over by the Japanese. Is it going to be tough to take it back? And so this is eventually going to lead to MacArthur contacting people in the military saying, look, we are not going to maintain this land as ours. So FDR faces a decision. MacArthur is going to get captured. If they capture MacArthur, would that be good for the United States? No, he's a general, right? If they had him, they would have too much information. So they do send in a cruiser to rescue MacArthur out. But they do not rescue his 4,000 plus soldiers out there. And they're captured by the Japanese and put on the Bataan Death March. And they're all executed. What does this signalize to the Americans? That if we were to have a land invasion of Japan, would it be difficult? And so this makes the U.S. realize that it's going to be a tough battle. That we're going to have an inland invasion of Japan to eventually get them to surrender. Okay, one of the things that we realize in this war is that we want them to not obtain any naval strips or sea lanes in this area. So this is Midway. Why is Midway important, looking at this little island? What does it have on it?
An airport.
An airport. And Midway is right above Hawaii. We don't want them to have this. So we have been losing a lot of battles, and I know I don't have all the battles here, But Midway's important because this is actually a U.S. victory. And we hadn't been winning much, but now that we have a victory, does this boost the confidence of the U.S.? It boosts the confidence, and this is going to lead to a changing of our strategy. And I know a lot of you had this one at blank on y'all's study guide. But what this is island hopping. Let me explain what island hopping is by talking about a frog. Have you ever watched a frog in a pond? Does he have to hit every lily pad to be able to get across?
Yes.
He really does? So he goes from this lily pad to the next one. He skips some. That's exactly what island hopping is, but in reference to islands. The U.S. is going to realize that some of these islands have been fortified by the Japanese. Should they hit those islands? No, they should go to islands that are less fortified, thus island hopping or leapfrogging their way to Japan by creating carrier-based islands that are able to get resources. So do y'all get island hopping now? Do y'all want to write it down on your study guide, or can we move on? You got the gist? Okay. Now that I referred to a frog, y'all got it. Okay. FDR dies. FDR dies, but this is his third vice president. And it wasn't even the vice president he wanted. His vice president that he really chose was Mr. Wallace. But the Democrat Party did not like Wallace. So they bring in Truman. They want him to be his vice president. FDR says, okay, he's on his third term. And he says, okay. And he takes Truman. Do you think he's going to include this guy on every single decision?
No.
Why not? Was this the guy he wanted?
No.
He wanted Wallace. And now, Truman, do you think he knows much about what's going on in the war?
No.
Does he even know about that secret project?
No.
No. And so he comes into this war, and he is basically at a disadvantage. Amidst this, we're going to see that they're going to island hop all the way from Coral Sea, Guam, all the way down to these last two islands. And there's a lot of movies on these two islands, but we're getting closer to Japan. So are they going to have more Japanese people on it?
Yes.
They're highly fortified. And y'all had this in your reading of Burdens to Power. Did we lose a lot of soldiers in these battles?
Yes.
And this made the military officials make some predictions that if we were to invade Japan, how many troops did they estimate we would lose? 500,000 to 1,000,000 soldiers. And so these two battles are going to signify to the United States that if we were to invade Japan, we would lose a lot of soldiers. And I want you to look at those dates, March and June. And I made you on your study guide have a date, July 16th. And it had Alamogordo. That is when we test our first atomic bomb. At this time of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, are we still thinking of an inland invasion of Japan? Yes, because what haven't we developed? The bomb. And so, by July 16th, we have tested our first bomb in the United States, but we've only developed 3. So how many do we have now that we've tested our first one? 2. This is going to lead to our next conference on our wartime conferences. Do y'all see Potsdam? Potsdam happens July 17th. And this is, who's the only one from our allies that's still here?
Stalin.
Who has replaced Roosevelt?
Truman.
Who has replaced Churchill? Attlee. He looks confident, right?
Yes.
Because what did he just test the day before? He looks smug because he knows through espionage what they've done. Because have they included him?
No.
No, there's tensions here, right? Okay, so at Potsdam, they're going to give a clear ultimatum to Japan that they must surrender, an unconditional. There's one condition that the Japanese want, to keep their emperor. And they've already started talking to Stalin in negotiations to commence the surrender, but they only want what? The emperor. But they said, we need to get rid of the emperor. And they're going to also start the Nuremberg trials, which is the Nazi crimes that are going on. They're going to start those at Potsdam. Okay, so July 17th. They reconfirmed Yalta that we're going to divide Germany into how many zones?
4,
We're going to have what type of elections in Europe, Eastern Europe?
3.
Why do you think they have to restate that? What do you think he's probably doing in Eastern Europe?
Not following that.
Putting puppet governments in, right? He's actually stripping East Germany of his resources. So he's restating this because are things being followed from Yalta?
No.
Also, it's restated that on August 8th, the Soviets will come into the war.
There's space between their chairs, between Truman's and
Mhm.
Stalin's.
And that's purposeful.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how many bombs do we have left?
2.
So, you have to understand why there's such mass devastation. It's how many planes do we need to send to drop off a bomb?
1.
And when they send these in, it was flying low. And so most Japanese people thought that this was just a spy plane coming in. And they knew it was an American plane because an American plane could fly higher than a Japanese plane. They saw it and most Japanese people didn't think, go to shelter. Because usually when the bombing campaigns have happened, there was tons of planes, right? Flying at high altitudes. So they knew when they just saw one plane, should they even go?
No.
So this is why at Hiroshima there was a massive casualty rate. Do they surrender yet?
No.
Because what do they still want to keep?
They're incorrect.
They're still negotiating with the Soviet Union. August 8th, the Soviet Union is supposed to come in. August 10th, they're supposed to drop the 9th.
Yeah.
Sorry. They're supposed to drop their next bomb on Karakura, but they don't drop it there because there's too much fog. And they can't drop it with the fog because what would happen?
They might miss.
They might miss their sight. So then they go to,
It's not
it was not even intended. Okay? They drop it there and now we get the surrender. We get their surrender. We're not going to read through the treaty, but what do you think we let them keep?
the emperor.
Their emperor. So this is why you read Burdens of Power. Because many people say, did we really drop the bomb to end the war with Japan? Some people, yes, save lives, right? But some people say, have you ever heard that saying, kill 2 birds with 1 stone?
Yes.
Who had been acting up in the whole war?
Soviet.
But did the Soviets have a reason to act up?
Yes.
What were they upset about?
They were getting left
Left
out.
out of negotiations like Manhattan. What were they upset about at Casablanca? Second Front. Do we have tensions amongst the Allies?
Yes.
And it's these tensions amongst the Allies that starts the Cold War. All right, there's Japanese surrender. I'm sorry, you war buffs. We didn't focus on